thanks everyone for joining today, and it's been a great set of sessions thus far. Appreciate you all being here, and yeah, happy Eat Boston. So, as mentioned, I'm Seth. I'm here from Groma, and I'm here to talk about a very tactical use case of blockchain that we've been working on for a number of years, and hopefully you all will get pretty excited about. We're rolling it out in beta really just now, and it is a very specific use case of trying to use blockchain, real estate, decentralized finance to enable renters to turn rent from just being a monthly expense that they earn every month into a levered monthly investment. And we think that is a really exciting thing and would do a lot of good for high expense cities like Boston, people all over the world. So we're trying to make it happen, and I want to walk through a little bit of what's behind the scenes to try to build a financial product, a DeFi tool like that. But first, I know you've all been sitting all day. Thanks everyone for joining us. And I figured a little bit of audience interaction. You're not going to have to do too much, so don't number up all that far. But just a quick show of hands. How many people in the audience today rent for the place that they live in? Maybe 40-ish%. How many of you own the place you live in? 50-ish%. Now, the complicated question, how many of you own the place you live in, rent the place you live in, but also own real estate beyond that? We've got a few people here. I'm also in that boat. I'm a renter. I also own real estate, actually via rent vesting. And our goal is to make it such that everybody who rents has the same ability to own real estate, own a bit of the city around them, own a bit of the world around them, as people who leverage the mortgage or other financial instruments to own their home. So if you're a homeowner, hopefully you'll find this presentation interesting. You can still use Groma in certain ways, but really this is built for the 100 million renters that exist across the US and the 40-50% of you here in the audience today. Some fun stats about why we're spending so much time and effort thinking about how to use blockchain, how to use DeFi to build a mortgage-like tool for renters. And really, this is the money slide, so to speak. There's 100 million renters in the United States, about 40% of the population. They spend $650 billion a year on rent, approaching $1 trillion a year in rent, and they earn and build zero wealth by default. Unlike a mortgage, which can be viewed as an investment, renting is an expense every month. $650 billion, 100 million people, zero building wealth by default. I dropped out of university, so I'm not an econ master, but I think the technical term for this situation is suboptimal. If you're spending $650 billion a year and not building any wealth from it, that's not ideal, and we want to use blockchain and rent vesting to try to solve that. How are we going to do that? Has involved a couple of years of work, a lot of investment in blockchain tech, a lot of investment in actual real estate and real estate tech, and I want to walk through here the smart contract that we call rent vesting that we're planning to roll out in the next couple of months. But first, as Jake had mentioned, this is actually my third Eat Boston. I'm a Boston native. Don't let the accent fool you. I've spent a couple of years with my team, a lot of whom are here as well, building out the Groma ecosystem. And there's one really important part of the Groma ecosystem that's worth highlighting before we dive into rent vesting itself, which is what we actually do, which is we provide a tool called the Groma coin. It's like a stable coin, not exactly a stable coin, but one that's backed by real estate. There's a lot of discussion in the last panel and throughout the day here about stable coins. A Groma coin is not fixed to the dollar, not backed by treasuries, but actually backed by underlying real estate. It's sort of a liquid form of real estate on chain, hopefully something that drives appreciation and yield over time. And the way Groma works is exceedingly simple. People can send their USDC, their Bitcoin, whatever they want to a Groma Prime address. They get back Groma coin. That's essentially a share in a decentralized real estate trust that owns real estate in the world, but the value of which is locked on chain. We've been working at this for 3 or 4 years. We've got about $100 million of physical real estate out in the real world, also owned by our holders on chain. As you can tell from the slides, and Eat Boston, I like the color orange. So if you see a small multifamily building rolling around Boston with a bright orange door, there's a good chance that is part of Groma, and the Groma coin holders actually own part of that as well. The exciting thing that I want to talk about today is really not Groma coin itself, but what you can do once you have liquid real estate on chain. And a primary use case for that is rent vesting, a smart contract that combines rent payments, a sort of a trustable revenue stream, Groma coin, liquid real estate on chain, and leverage, a little bit of debt. And the goal is to use those, combine those into a smart contract that gives renters a path to actually build real estate ownership, importantly, without spending any more each month. People already spend plenty on rent. We don't want to increase that, but we want to give them financial tools that exist in the same way that financial tools exist for homeowners all across the country. The way rent vesting works is sort of a three-step process. I'm going to walk through how it works, and then I'll take a step back and walk through kind of why it works. So how it works is, let's say you're a renter. You could just pay rent normally, $2,500 a month, pay it to your landlord, live there for a month. In the rent vesting model, there's a few more steps, but it also offers, we hope, the potential for renters to get a stake in the ecosystem around them and build wealth over time. The way it works for a rent investor is instead of paying their rent right away, first they take that $2,500 and they actually invest it into real estate. They actually buy Groma coins that purchase, let's say, $2,500 worth of liquid real estate on chain. We have bankers, and we actually have this live today in limited beta, we have bankers behind the scenes who will lend to Groma Corp and thus to our renters, secured by that real estate on chain, sort of a DeFi transaction. The $2,500 that gets paid to the property, and that covers their rent for that month. At this point, they've done two things. One is they've bought real estate. The second is they've levered it, borrowed against it, and used that to pay their monthly rent. And it's a net zero transaction thus far. You got $2,500 of value, you borrowed $2,500, use that to pay your rent. What happens in following months gets interesting. Real estate has this really nice capacity to appreciate over time. And so the way rent vesting smart contract works is the renter can hold those coins, hold those shares for as long as they want, and benefit from the appreciation over time. When they sell, the smart contract first pays back the amount of covered rent, so our bankers get paid back. Any excess is the renters to keep, and Groma is actually sitting in the middle and eating a little bit of risk, so if the real estate happens to go down, Groma takes the loss, not the renter. A couple of important things have happened there. One, rent-vested shares, Groma coins, tend to produce yield. Real estate produces cash flow, and it's that cash flow, those dividends, that are actually covering the interest payment for our banks and keep them engaged and willing to underwrite this entire process. That is something that we hope to use DeFi and sort of DeFi lending protocols for over time. That's how the process works. To recap very, very quickly, it's a multi-part smart contract. A renter could rent normally. Instead, they rent vest, they take their monthly rent check, they buy Groma coins with it, they stake those. We have lending protocols to lend against them. That covers their rent. They get to keep the appreciation. If those real estate shares appreciate, the dividends cover the interest. It's in many ways like a mortgage, but a mortgage where we've split apart the key components and reimagined it so that a renter can step into real estate and benefit from appreciation. A banker can do their normal thing with banking, and we can enable our renters and others to actually get a stake in their community over time using a little bit of financial engineering and a little bit of blockchain to make it all happen. Why does it work behind the scenes, and what are people sort of believing to make this happen? Well, there's three different parties involved in the smart contract: the renter, Groma sitting in the middle, and the lender. As a renter, if you rent vest, you're making a bet that real estate will appreciate over time. Right? If appreciation is greater than zero, the renter, when they sell their Groma coins, ends up with a net equity benefit, ends up with value that's been created. If it goes down, they end up basically at neutral, paying rent each month, just like they normally did. The lender, on the other side, is making the simplest bet. They're just betting that they're going to get paid their interest. Groma coins tend to produce dividends. That covers the interest. Groma is sitting in the middle, guaranteeing that in case there's a shortfall in any given month. So the bankers are not the most adventurous people. They're making the simplest bet in the equation. And over time, we expect that funding source to come from sort of stablecoin lending on chain. And really, those stablecoin lenders are making the bet that they get paid the interest that's been promised. Groma sits in the middle and sort of guarantees all this in a slightly more complicated bet. We are making the statement that we think the dividends produced by Groma coin, by real estate shares, will be greater than interest. Otherwise, we're sitting in the middle covering that loss. And that over time, appreciation of real estate in dollar terms will be greater than zero. Otherwise, again, we're in a position where we have to cover that. That is a complicated bet, but is a reasonable bet. I'll talk about this in a little more detail on a later slide. But a fundamental principle of real estate investing, I know we're in a crypto conference, but many of you may also be real estate people. A fundamental principle there is that you want to be buying real estate where dividends are greater than your cost of borrowing, and you hope it goes up over time. So these are important concepts, important bets for us to be placing, but reasonable within the scope of things people do in the real estate space to try to make money off real estate, and we want to bring that on-chain and make it available for renters so they can step into it each month and build wealth over time. There's a lot of steps to rent vesting. And there are lots of things in crypto that can be, make money overnight or potentially lose money overnight. We like to position rent vesting as a turn of phrase. I'm not sure we've coined ourselves, probably others have used it, but it's a get-rich-slow scheme. There is no way for this Groma coin or rent vestors to 10x or 100x their holdings overnight. But what stepping into real estate ownership over time has the potential to do, and has done for 100 million homeowners in America, but not done for 100 million renters, is build wealth, build equity over time. We have rent investors in the ecosystem today, and as this projects forward, what we think this can mean for renters in the Groma ecosystem, in any property over time, is the ability to turn their monthly rent from just being an expense every month into something that represents ownership in real estate. If real estate appreciates, in this model, 5% a year, over 5 years of renting, instead of walking away with zero, you're walking away with a net equity of $15,000, $16,000, which isn't going to make you a millionaire overnight, but it does index you into the city around you, into owning real estate, and starts to enable people to build wealth and build equity in real estate much, much earlier in their career than they otherwise might be able to. We view that as a real net good for society and a very pragmatic use of blockchain to make all this happen. Wrapping up in about a minute or two here, and I'll leave any time for questions if folks want to dive deeper. We view rent vesting as one of, we hope, the formative real-world use cases for blockchain, a way for us to take this incredible technology that lets people democratize access to ownership, move money around, move value around in really creative ways, and achieve three things that we think are going to help onboard millions of people into the blockchain ecosystem over the next couple of years. Three very cool use cases, or three very cool components of it. Smart contracts make it feasible for us to take a transaction as complicated as rent vesting, about as complicated as a mortgage, and encode all that into a smart contract. We're building on the Ethereum platform, on Ethereum, that enables us to keep all of those parties in sync and keep those transactions flowing smoothly. We need debt to make all of this work, and there are lots of stablecoin holders who want yield. Why not deposit your stablecoins into a rent vesting lending contract so that you're earning your 4 or 5% yield, but also facilitating a transaction that enables renters to actually buy into that ecosystem and build real estate wealth over time. And for millions of renters who probably aren't here at this conference, they should be and will be introduced to blockchain over the coming years. And we view this as a way for us to take blockchain, which can be a little bit of an abstract concept, and deliver something that really matters to them, a way for them to stop just burning their rent money every month and turn that into something that is actually an investment, buying them into the ecosystem around them. We view this as a really big win for everybody involved. Renters can finally get a path to building ownership without spending any more each month. If you're a renter in the audience, hopefully that resonates with you. I'm a renter, certainly resonates with me. On-chain lenders, people holding stablecoins, get a new and value-additive way to build yield and build their sort of expected return over time. And for Groma, which is today about a $100 million ecosystem, it gives us the potential to work with our renters and renters not in the Groma ecosystem to build scale as we try and bring this from Boston, where we're currently live in beta, to other cities and other countries across the world. We've just launched the beta site, so if you're interested, it's actually not live today, but you can sign up and get on the wait list for when we eventually set this live, or just learn more about what we're doing. And with that, I'll wrap up here and leave about 5 minutes for questions. This has been on rent vesting and a little bit of background on Groma and our plans to use blockchain to try to turn rent from just being an expense every month into being an investment instead. So let me pause here and happy to answer any questions.